Hey everyone, it's Hannah, and today we are roasting and preserving chickens. I have 4 chickens here that we raised and got butchered. They are completely frozen. I'm not sure how big they are. We're gonna weigh them in a second, but we are going to roast them 2 different ways. Behind me here I have the roaster pan and the Instapot. I can only fit 1 in the Instapot at a time, and I'm probably gonna fit 2 in the roaster pan. I'm not sure where my other roaster pan is, but hopefully we can get 2 cooking in there, and then by the time the first one's done in the Instapot, we will swap that out and put that one in the Instapot also. So what we're gonna do is we are going to roast them, cook them all the way through, then we are gonna shred the meat. I'm gonna preserve that meat by canning it, pressure canning it, and freeze drying it, and then we're also gonna make some yummy broth with that as well. So first things first, let's weigh these chickens and see how much they weigh. I have my scale here, and it goes up to 33 pounds, so we should be good. And I didn't grab any specific size out of the freezer. I just grabbed the first 4 that I could find. And I think this one looks like the smallest, maybe not. This one is 7 pounds exactly. This one is just under 7. This one is 7.5. It's 7 pounds, 11 ounces. So definitely bigger than those 2. And this one feels a lot heavier. Yeah, this one's 9 pounds. Holy cow. So these chickens, like I said, we had raised here. We got some broiler chicks from the store. We raised them. We got 2 different batches of them. They're both Cornish cross, but we got 1 set of, I think, 15, and then another set about a week later. So when we butchered them, we had 7-week-old ones and 6-week-old ones. So I'm guessing this 9-pounder was a 7-week-old broiler, and the smaller ones were probably the 6-week ones. But those are pretty big chickens, for sure. So let's cut these open and get them in the roaster pan. Okay, so I have my knife here. I am just going to take this off. Now these are, like I said, completely frozen, so seasoning is not gonna stick to them right now. See, there's actually ice on this one. I'm gonna try to cut it into the sink, chip that ice off a little bit. We had these processed, I'm not sure how long ago, probably 6 months ago. Yeah, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, so they're not super old. And that's the biggest one. So let's take a roaster pan here, take the lid out, and then we'll put the biggest ones in here. And let's do, I don't want it to burn because it's frozen. We're gonna roast them pretty slow. Because I don't want to burn them. And I'm gonna put water in the bottom of them anyways. Cut this second one open. And since I can only fit 1 in my Instapot, I'm gonna let the other one thaw out a little bit on the counter. It probably won't get anywhere near thawed out by the time it's ready to go in the Instapot, but maybe it'll help the cooking process just a little bit. Okay. This guy in here. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands, and then we will put some stuff inside the roaster pan. Okay, so clean hands. Now we can go ahead and add some seasoning to this. I'm going to add some water first so that it doesn't scorch on the bottom. probably just put maybe 4 cups in there. Now a roaster pan will get the skin pretty crispy. I don't really care if the skin is crispy because, like I said, I'm going to be canning this chicken. Maybe let's do 6 cups in there. We'll see if we need to add more later. All right, and then as far as spices, I'm just going to keep it pretty plain because I don't want to over season it so that I can use this chicken out of the jars and out of the freeze dryer for whatever dish I'm going to be making. If I season it too specific to one dish, then I won't be able to use it for all of them. So we're just going to do salt, pepper, garlic, and maybe a little paprika. Like I said, seasoning probably won't stick to this, which is fine. That's why I kind of ran the water over the top of it. But I am also going to be making broth out of this. And so having a little bit, and I guess I'm going to put a little bit of onion powder in there because I don't have any onions either. But having a little bit of seasoning for the broth does not hurt. Once these get closer to being fully cooked, I will add the carrots and celery in. I don't want to add it in now because I don't want them to get either burnt or super mushy overcooked and then maybe taste weird in the broth. Let's see, let me get some salt and some peppercorns. Okay, so it's a little bit of seasoned salt here on them also. And I am being pretty generous with the seasoning because this is a lot of chicken. About 15 pounds of chicken in here. And then I am gonna add a lot of water when we make the broth later. All right, so let's get these roasting up. I'm probably gonna put it on 200, between 200 and 250. I'll kind of watch it and see if they get a little dark before they're thawed out. We'll start there and kind of see what's going on. And then I'll bring you back when these ones are fully cooked and we will shred them, take out the carcasses, put the carcasses in here covered with water with the celery and carrots, and then make our broth that way. Okay, so I have my Instapot dish here, and I am gonna leave this little rack in the bottom just so it doesn't scorch that skin either. Let's see. These are about the same weight, but I'm gonna take the bigger of the two just so the other one maybe has a better chance of thawing out. I don't know, makes sense to me, but probably won't make a difference since they are completely frozen solid. Before I open this up, I'm gonna get it near the sink. Hopefully it fits. We'll see if that fits with the lid on. We might have to take that little tray out and add a little bit more water than I was planning on. All right, let's move this over. Just want to see if it fits before I add all this stuff to the pot. Let's try to take this tray out. Okay, I got that to fit. I'm gonna wash my hands real fast and then we will season it up and stick it in the Instapot. Okay, so we're gonna do the same seasonings as the other one. Some seasoned salt here. which is almost empty. Garlic, onion, paprika, and peppercorns. And this one I won't probably make into broth, but I will take the juice out of here and dump it into the roaster pan so that all the broth is cooking together. And I'm gonna just add black pepper. I don't need the peppercorns. Peppercorns is more for the broth. That's why I put it in there. So let me add some black pepper to this. All right, now let's just put a little bit of water in there. Just probably about 2 cups. Probably should have done that before I put all the seasoning on. Oh well. It'll be fine. Okay, let's pop this in the Instant Pot. Okay, let's get the lid on this Instant Pot and get that started. And we're gonna put it on the meat setting. Make sure it's on high, and we're gonna do probably an hour. Okay, yep, so let's start with 60 minutes on the meat setting on high, and I will bring you back and show you how that's looking. We got them both cooking, and I will let you know how long each of them take. Okay, so it's been an hour. It's actually been an hour and 15 minutes. But I'm gonna go ahead and release this. I just put a towel over it to catch the steam so it doesn't hit my cabinet. I did turn the roaster pan up to 350 because it was not doing anything on 250. It is still relatively frozen. But we'll look and see what this looks like in just a second, and we'll take its temperature. Okay, so it is just released, or finished releasing, so I am going to open this, open it away from me so I don't get any steam on me. All right, and let's check it. I think I'm gonna do about 10, maybe 20 more minutes. I'm gonna set it for 20 more minutes and see. And I'll bring it back. Okay, so it's been another 20 minutes on the Instapot. I'm gonna let this keep releasing, and let's check how these 2 chickens are going. All right, take my thermometer here. And let's stick it in here. Oh, not bad. Let's see if we can get a few places here. I feel like this part's hard. Yeah. Might flip this guy over. Oh yeah, that's still cold. Flip him over. Okay, pretty good. And I say good because they were super frozen. So I'm okay with this. At least they're, see, that part's not thawed out yet. Okay, let's flip them over and then see. Because the legs are decently warm. Yeah, let's flip these over and then we'll give those another few minutes. And then this has finished releasing. Open this guy. And I did flip him over right before I started it for another 20 minutes. So it's like falling apart already. Yeah, it's hard to find any meat because you can see the carcass is kind of falling apart. So I'm gonna say this is done. Yeah, let me pull this out and then we will start shredding it. Okay, so we have our last chicken in the Instapot going now. I seasoned it the same as the other ones and then put it in there. And then we have all of our chicken from the first chicken shredded up. This is how much we got from our smallest one. So I got that all shredded up, and then I will go ahead and stick that in the fridge. When the rest of these are done, I will do the same thing. Take them out, shred them, put them in here, put them in the fridge, and then once our broth is done cooking, I'll can them all up so that I can put a little bit of the broth in the jar with them. I did leave the chicken in bigger chunks. That way, I like to can it when it's bigger chunks. That way it doesn't fall apart. I haven't had any issues canning turkey or chicken. Usually they hold their shape and their flavor really well. and them being canned in the broth keeps them super moist and super flavorful. So we'll just let these keep cooking and repeat the same process. You know, I changed my mind. I am going to make broth in a couple different containers. I was gonna make it all in my roaster pan, but I was thinking 4 carcasses and a little bit of, you know, leftover meat and fat that's on it is too much to go into one roaster pan. So after this first chicken I just shredded, I'm gonna put all the carcass and everything in this pot, throw some carrots and celery in there, probably a little bit of salt and peppercorn, and I'm just gonna throw it on the stove. Okay, so I have my pot on the stove. As you can see, I put my celery in there, the carcass, and there's some carrots there at the bottom. There's some carrots. Carrots are going in here, and I just covered it with water. I put maybe 3-4 teaspoons of salt in here, and then maybe 15 peppercorns, not that many. I don't want it super peppery at all. But I'm just gonna put this lid on, and we are gonna turn the burner on low and just let it simmer away. All right, I just flipped these back over. We're still at 350 for temperature here. Let's see what our internal temp is. 140. Ooh, not too bad here. Yeah, even the breasts are pretty warm, and they are super thick, so yeah, that one's a little cooler. Let's try this out again. All right, well, we're at around 100, and the rest is pretty warm. So, not terrible, shouldn't take too much longer. And I might see if I can squish these down into the broth so they cook a little bit more evenly too. And it's been about, I think we got them in here at noon, so it's been almost 3 hours. Okay, so here we have our first batch of broth just simmering away. These are the 2 chickens I got out of the roaster pan. Here's the drippings that I'm gonna add some seasonings and water to. And then here's the second Instapot chicken with the juices. So in the roaster pan, I'm just adding carrots, celery, and then I will be adding some salt and black peppercorns, and then top it off with water. So like I said, these are the 2 chickens that came out of there, and I just left everything in there. And this is how our broth is looking. I did shut it off. It is a light broth, so very chickeny. But how I know that it's done is I usually take a bone out of the broth, and I did this from each of these 2 pots. I took a bone out, and you can see here how it crumbles, and that's usually when I know it's done, is when the bones start kind of crumbling or disintegrating with my fingers. You can see I'm not pushing very hard, and it's crumbling. And then the other batch I'm going to leave in the roaster pan and let that go between 24 and 48 hours. I think it's about 36 hours when I stop it. But usually I just let it go overnight, and then whenever I get to it, I get to it. So I'll just let that go, and then I'll strain that. And then the Instapot, I'm just going to take the leftover juice and drippings from cooking the 2 chickens and mix that together with the 2 broths we simmered on the stove. So here you can just see I am straining the 2 broths that we simmered on the stove, and then I'm going to mix them all together in the large stock pot. I don't have that much room in my fridge, so I'm just going to combine the 2 that were simmering, and then the Instapot in here. I'm just straining it to get all the chunks out so that it's easier to can in the morning. All right, everybody, it has been a long day. We have cooked 4 whole chickens. This is how much shredded chicken we got. I will finish breaking this down when I stick it into jars. And this is how much chicken broth we got. You can see, I don't know how many quarts this pot holds, but it is a lot of chicken broth. So if you want to see how I preserve these 2, check out my next video for freeze drying and pressure canning these. I hope you guys learned something. Go ahead and comment below what you want to see next, any questions you have, and yeah, I hope to see you guys later. Bye, guys.